Welcome everyone back to Pommy and Us. Hope we're all doing really well. If you're new around here, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Now that Carlton are out, we will be really going in depth and deep diving into the trade and draft and the off season. So if you are an opposition fan, we will be ploughing that out. Loads of live streams coming up, loads of in-depth analysis, really getting to know the players and also analysing all the trade and list management requirements. But we're here to talk about Carlton's prelim loss to Brisbane, a 16-point loss. And let's look at the raw data. I mean, what was that game? It started off so good for the Blues. The Blues really piled on the numbers early on. They really came out to play, a lot of pressure around the ball. They really took the game to them. It was the Carlton that we've fallen in love with the last season, playing on real heart and determination. The 9 intercepts in the forward half of the 18 really pegging Brisbane back. They were really strong around the ball, had a real high pressure rating. They really went for that massive 13-1 forward half tackles and tried to lock the ball in. And it was a good game plan, to be honest, right? It was a good game plan. The first 5 goals, right, of the game were coming from centre-back bounces. Carlton really looked to take it to them. They'd started to get their turnover game going, which was really important. 4 goals from turnover in that first half. They really looked to do it. They created them scoring opportunities, like we said, from the centre bounce. And Carlton were looking like they were there. The big issue was their ability around stoppage and clearance was starting to look like it was evening up towards the end of that quarter. And in the end, it really showed. Brisbane have been there 5 times and failed in finals, and you could see that the experience in that second quarter really took it away from them. They were too fresh, they were too good. Carlton started to play into the game plan, and this is what we talked about in the preview. It's important that you play your game plan. You don't set up to negate theirs, because that means you're going to buy into it. And you could see it in the second quarter, particularly. Carlton started to drop back from the contest, started to invite pressure, and Brisbane had space to play. The game opened up for Brisbane, and ultimately, when you go 2 scoreless quarters, 2 goalless quarters, you're in trouble. You're in trouble at this level, and as we can see, Carlton's kick-to-handball ratio going to where they are. Genuinely, they are a handball take-contact side. The tackles, will be really disappointing for the Blues. The second half to the first half, the tackles really dropped off. Resurged a little bit in the fourth. Tackles inside 58, which is where we were last week. But when you look at it in the context of the game, that was spread out through 4 quarters. This week, it was really condensed into that opening half. And ultimately, too big, too strong, too good were Brisbane. Just under 80% rebound 50 rate. And that is interesting that they've averaged about just over 100 at the Gabba. Carlton kept them to 80, which on a day is good. Do you know what I mean? You'd take that. But the problem was, the scores in that first half were all created by forcing Brisbane to kick long, forcing them to go down the line, take that short corridor kick option on. And they were looking like they could quite easily kick a score count. And once that went away, that was a big thing. And this is the damning stat there. 11.5 marks inside 50 rate. Carlton's inside 50s in that second half, particularly that second quarter, started to become shots to nothing. Hopeful ones. -5 contested possession and -14 clearance differential. They did the number. We knew this was going to be tough, and it was all about Carlton smashing and bashing through there, them winning it and getting on the outside, and that really did show in that second quarter, particularly what happens when you allow this team some space to play the ball. You had the number 1 side with the ball versus the number 1 side without the ball, and ultimately that leg work and that spread, if you're not putting the pressure on and you're not making them kicks hard and you're giving them time to play them short hit-up leads like they were doing, that is a big thing. 21% goal generation. Carlton, again, not quite doing it. And we did predict at the start of the game that it was going to be a 3-goal win to Brisbane by TPI. TPI saying Carlton's slightly behind on the 8 ball, which I think is fair. And I think ultimately what this game is, as disappointing as it is and as heartbreaking as it is, when you're at this level, you're at the Final 4, game management and intelligence comes in. And when you're so far ahead on the scoreboard like we were at the quarter time, 31-8, you've got to look at what you can do, and we doubled our score by the fourth quarter. At that, you want to go, and we talked about it at the start, how well they play the second half, Brisbane. They were fantastic in that first quarter, the way that they kicked that late goal, and then they carried on playing. And when you look at it towards that back end of the game, that was bad, right? The pre-clearance contested possessions, Carlton got absolutely destroyed in that second quarter, and their ability to spread was telling, and you could see that there was a lot of experience telling, and thankfully we've learned the experience. The only way that you can learn anything in life is going through it. The boys went through it, they went through the ringer, but to take out of this, you only ever have a defeat in life if you don't learn anything from it, right? If you learn something from it, you can always put it down to a lesson then, and that's wonderful, right? I always think that's a great way. It's something my pop taught me as a kid. Do you know what I mean? When you fail, if you've learned something out of it, you can just dust it off as a lesson, son. And last year, round 23, they learnt a hard lesson. They had finals taken away. I remember saying in this video this time last year at the end of our season, it's all about how we bounce back and just count that we played finals and then we go on to win finals. They've done that, and they're a very good learning side. Will it take us 5 games of getting knocked out in finals like Brisbane? I don't think so. I think the boys will have learned a lot of lessons here, particularly game management and holding it out. When you have that blistering start, it's very imperative that you back it up in the second quarter. And the way that we handled their swing in this momentum type game, sitting back and dropping off, will be probably disappointing for Voss. But what I am really proud of as a content creator is how we've come together since round 12. We've really had that stronger together, probably the best hashtag. And it's not just the team, it's the whole culture of the club. And that's what we talk about. And that has been proud, really proud. Makes me really proud that it's not just the players, it's the staff, and more importantly, the fan base, you guys and girls. I feel really connected for the first time in a long time. Usually I have a handful of people I feel connected to, and that's jumped up to about 50,000 people. So I can't thank you enough for that. But let's go on to individual players. And Jordan Boyd, he was much talked about when he came in, wasn't he? He was really talked about. People were talking about, oh, is he the right selection? 17 touches, the 4 tackles, the 10 defensive half pressure acts, the 4 intercept possessions, 3 ground ball gets, which were really strong, really strong. He really worked well on the deck, which was really nice to see, because we'd taken it all out. You had to really justify that. And what was really impressive for me from Jordan Boyd was he knuckled down and he fought till the very end. What is really interesting as well was his ball use. You could see that Carlton brought them in and they looked to take the game on, right? They looked to take the game on. And as you can see, the 2 score launches, the 27.1 metres gained. Partly there, I'd be really excited about that if Carlton were transitioning really well. That does tell a tale itself that Carlton didn't really have any midfield options for short hit-up leads. And when he's going at 82.4 disposal efficiency, that's an opportunity missed that we could have maybe negated that pressure again. That is something that you learn. In the furnace of a final, it's totally different to a regular season. And that's something that I've always noticed, but even more so when you're looking at it intrinsically. The 3 score involvements, and again, he kept himself loose. This is really important. When we're looking at the players that are playing this role, negating and trying to get out the back half, we're looking for them to get free. And he did that very well for the 17 touches and didn't look out of place. A really good performance from him. And I really enjoyed Jordan's inclusion. I thought he justified it. Right. Up next, Mitch McGovern. And I thought he had some real tough assignments this week. The 5 marks and the 4 intercept marks, the 2 contested marks. Particularly in the first quarter, this guy here was turning anything they did into a disaster. Carlton kept him really loose, and it's interesting here when you see that he didn't get any natural one-on-ones. You can see here that even though you might have not liked the Kemp one, this kind of justifies it, that only 2 of the defenders had natural one-on-ones. That was Marchbank and Whittaker, and there's a reason because of how their forward line works. So we were allowed to play him loose. The 9 intercept possessions, the 27.5 metres gained at 86.7 kicking efficiency, phenomenal. He did hit the targets. He did take that corridor kick on. He did look to do it. He didn't see the game out with that caught thigh, but the 6 ground ball gets, again, showing that Carlton are in a real privileged position. We can play these medium-sized players on the smaller guys as well. The 3 score involvements, I really enjoyed his game. And up next, Mr. Finals, Sam Walsh. We've talked about finals players. This guy, again, really shining light for Carlton. The 14 contested possessions, the 6 tackles. His defensive work this season has been really paramount of how he's really come out of his shell. The 1 rebound 50, the 8 inside 50s, the 3 clearances, the 19.7 metres gained. And that's a really interesting little facet from Sam Walsh. He really looked to get the game going. And 76% disposal efficiency for a midfielder who has accumulated 33 touches. Again, he kept the chains going. He didn't really have much help in that second half, but he was one who really took the pressure furnace of this game and really embraced it. He was really, really solid. He was looking to really take the game on. And he's one of these guys that can turn round and say, you know what, I belong here. And I felt strong. I felt strong in this game. Jacob Whittaker, we're lucky to have him. Do you know what I mean? He probably broke even with Joe Danaher, but Joe Danaher was really finding space. He got the better of him a couple of times, but 8 marks, 5 intercept marks, 2 contested, 100% one-on-one. It was just them early leads, and it's quite hard for a key defender, I think, when you're giving up so many ball around 65 out, which we did in that second quarter and third quarter, which made it very easy to lead and hit marks on the lead. The 10 intercept possessions, the 4 spoils, 21 metres gained at 76.9 is incredible for a guy like that. The best defender in the league. Him and Harris Andrews really showcased what it is to be a quality defender. 3 ground ball gets again, and there's 1 score involvement. He'll be very happy with his outing, and you know what? He's been phenomenal this season, has him. Caleb Marchbank, the other one that copped a little bit of hate because I don't quite agree with it, but he destroyed Eric Hitwood here. And some massive, massive efforts around when we were under the caution. In that second quarter, him and Whittaker probably stopped that being a disaster zone. 8 marks, 5 intercept marks, the 1 contested mark. Interesting to note as well that he lost one of the one-on-ones, but aside from that, he was very solid, particularly on the ground. It has to be said with them 5 ground ball gets. He really did take it. There was a few times he was found on Lincoln McCarthy and stuff and battered him on the deck. 10 intercept marks, 7 spoils, just under 21 metres gained. 68.8 kicking efficiency. This is the argument here. He probably had a bit too much ball to kick out. Wasn't helped by the midfield because the midfield really condensed into the back half of the ground in that second and third quarter. That's like a shadow to the reviews we were doing round 10 and round 11. They really did get overwhelmed by the ball movement from Brisbane. But it has to be said, you could see that Marchbank and Whittaker had been in a side that had got hemorrhaged for so many years. They handled themselves really well. 3 scoring involvements, he took the game on and looked to do it, particularly when he's working higher up the ground. I like that role. He justified it. He justified it. Great to talk about this guy. We talked about getting around him. Harry Mackay, 80% one-on-one against a very tough assignment. That backline had a day. Had Harris Andrews for company for much of it, right? In that second quarter and that first quarter. And he got the better of him. Finished with 2-2. And he will probably feel like there was probably a bit more out there. But his ability and the noise and him taking that opportunity shouldn't be understated. The 6 marks, the 2 marks on the lead, the 4 contested marks, and the 1 mark inside 50. That's probably more of a detriment, right, to him. It was interesting that Darcy Gardner very early went on Curnow. And that kind of thought, you know what, if we can sort and get them 60 kicks to Martin, we can have a chance here. And Harry did a fantastic job. It really is understated here. His work up the ground was phenomenal. And you know what? The noise of when he kicked that first was good. Them 2 goals, he may question himself there. But you know what? This is what we expect from Harry this season. It hasn't been quite the goal-kicking season. 50%. But the 5 score involvements, the 2 pressure acts, he played a little bit higher up the ground this week. And the 2 goals too. It was a solid, solid game. And we finished with Ollie Hollins, who, you know what? it was great to see Ollie in here. He really played the defensive role. And you could see that players like Akers and Mr. Doc were holding a little bit of an injury. You could see that, right? And this guy here had to play that defensive role, which I thought he did incredibly well. I really did think he did incredibly well at playing that defensive style and was playing with heart all the way through it. What a little guy he is. The limited touches, but this game here really showcased how hard he runs. The 15 kilometres run, the most on the ground. And spending his time on the left wing or in that right half-back flank pocket, which is a real tough position for a kid. It's got to be remembered as a kid. The 4 effective kicks, very limited with his ball use, right? Very limited with that kicking. He was given a defined role, and it's important to note that 73%, a lot of these were short kicks, just keeping the chains. The 1 score launch, the 1 score involvement, the 3 mats, 17 pressure acts and the 3 tackles. But that 15 Ks, he really deserves to be noted. That was a tough assignment for him, and he did well. And I want to finish with thanking you guys and girls. This is a real pleasure. And you know what? I never thought I'd be one of them guys when I was younger that would grow up to feel validation from randoms. I was heavily brought up to give myself validation and do that. This has been an amazing journey over the 2 years of doing this. We've gained subs and I've gained friends for life, and you've become like a family to me. And you know, whether you're a Bluebagger or you're not and you watch me because you enjoy my content, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's been a real great year, and not just because Carlton have done well, but I feel like I've grown myself. But in them hard times, a lot of you reached out to me, even opposition fans, to try and G me up and stuff, and that never goes unnoticed. The kindness and love of compassion of humanity is something that probably gets easily forgotten, and I just wanted to take some time out that whether you're a member, whether you're a paying member, whether you just like my content, whether you just drop a comment, I thank you so much, because honestly from the bottom of my heart it's a privilege to be doing this, and I really enjoy it. And we're going to be moving on to bigger and better things. We will continue to churn out the content and we will continue to get better. As you can see, I've spent a lot of time in doing this, and it's worthwhile because I get to hang with you guys and girls, and you're absolutely phenomenal. So, not the result we wanted. We live, we learn, we move on, we go again. Good luck to both sides in the grand final. I'll be back very shortly with more content for the off-season, so make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. I love you all from the bottom of my heart. Go Blues, and for the last time in a Carlton review. Till next year, Pom out.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella bad.